So I would like to wish a warm welcome to Richard from the Aviation Factory, where he's going to be talking about all things private jet chartering. So Richard, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Richard Khan. I'm an air charter broker for the Aviation Factory. I work remotely. Our headquarters are in Belgium.
Okay.
So I'm responsible for winning new business, trying to bring in new clients who would like to use private jets, helicopters, or even larger aircraft. So we can move sports teams, pretty much anything. So from one person to 300 people and cargo as well. So it's all possible.
So can you provide an overview of the services that you offer for high net worth individuals in the Costa del Sol?
Sure. So how it would typically work is we deal primarily, the majority of our business comes from business travelers. So okay. I'd say 90% are probably business travelers, and then the rest is leisure and high net worth. Well, they're all high net worth individuals, but you know, the ones that can fly these planes. And the reason they do this is for convenience. Primarily. They can fly privately, they can get somewhere quickly, they don't have to rely on schedules. So in the Costa del Sol, it's the perfect marketplace for it really. There's so much development happening, which you know well.
Of course.
There's a lot of affluent areas in this part of Spain, and so this is a really good hotspot for the private jet industry.
Yeah, so what is the typical profile of your clientele here?
Typical profile would be a business user. Majority of the time, they want to get places quickly. They don't want to rely on commercial air travel with the delays that are possible and trying to get through busy terminals. So that would be the main profile, really. Anyone who wants to get somewhere in style, luxury, in peace, securely. You know, not having to worry about going through long queues. So it's really a good time-saving method. In the end, I mean, that's what the majority of people use it for.
So what are the key benefits and advantages of using private jet charter compared to the more commercial airlines?
Biggest advantage would be flexibility. Let's say you want to do 2 days time, you wanted to leave at 7 a.m. because you have to be in London for a meeting at 10, for example, or 11 a.m. You'd have to rely on a commercial airline schedule, not always convenient for you. So with a private jet, we'll get the private jet organised for that departure, for that time. You want special requests on board, special catering, we can organise it all. Majority of airports have, you know, a private jet terminal, so you would come through a separate terminal, separate security. You could have a car meeting you at the aircraft. It all depends on where you've flown from, etc. But there's so many different advantages that we can get you from A to B extremely quickly and safely, and also in luxury.
Awesome.
Another good benefit also is that, you know, you're in a plane with a lot more space, so you can get to work on the plane.
Yeah.
You know, you even you get changed on the plane if you want to, and not have to worry about it. You know, if you can travel in what you want, get off the plane in your suit that you haven't travelled in, and get to your meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So how customizable is the services that you offer for private jet chartering? Extremely.
So, I mean, anything from luxury limousines to take you to the aircraft, concierge services, catering on board. So if you wanted just standard catering, which is offered anyway, or you can have exclusive VIP catering. So if you want a Dom Perignon caviar, that can be organised. Anything to the finest detail can be done. Likewise, then we can deal with event management. You know, we have connections with event producers, event managers, hotels, as I said, limousine services, and so much more. So we're not just to get you there from A to B. We can deal with CDE and afterwards as well. So anything really that can be done, we can customize.
You can do that.
Again, on board as well, anything. You know, it depends what you wanted on there. So special food, special drinks. Whatever, you know, and I think with that, it's so much more, and this is why using a broker like myself would be a benefit for a lot of people, because we're not just someone to book a flight for you.
Yeah, of course.
You tell us what you want to the finest detail, we can get it done. I mean, I've got a request that's just come in, and it's a golfing tour around the US, so they want different prices for different routes, with the golf baggage on board. You know, again, traveling with special equipment, you know, that can be a pain when you're flying commercially. With this, it's not so much. So we will find the right aircraft for your trip.
Perfect. So I would imagine with your certain clientele for booking private jet charters, that their privacy is quite a big concern to them. Can you tell us a bit more about that? How do you ensure their privacy?
Flying private is probably the only way you are going to get privacy. You can't get that even travelling first class. People see you getting on board and getting off, and if you're a person of a certain status that doesn't want to be seen, or you're travelling somewhere for a meeting that you perhaps don't want competitors to see you travelling to, travelling private is probably the only way to go. No one knows, apart from us and the operator, who's on board.
Yep.
And that's it. We'll get you to your private terminal, straight into a car, and you're gone. And that all comes down then to security as well. So your security risks are lower because you're not traveling commercially.
Yep.
And then safety, of course, the aviation industry is probably one of the strictest on when it comes to safety and how secure we keep everything. So there's plenty of checks that we do. We need to know who's traveling on board.
Yep.
Reasons for travel usually are quite good to know as well, and then what they're taking on board. But it's not just their security, it's the security of the crew on board, it's the security of the aircraft, and the safety of everyone involved in the operation. So we take everything extremely serious when it comes to that.
So can you discuss the flexibility of destinations and maybe the accessibility to those more remote locations, and how do you deal with those? Okay,
not all destinations are accessible commercially. So flying private gives you that benefit. So if someone were to contact me saying they wanted to get to a ski resort in the Alps, so for example Courchevel, a lot of airliners, commercial airliners, can't land there. Even some private jets, the bigger ones, can't. But we can get people into remote locations like that. If a jet's not accessible, then we use a helicopter. Okay. So this is the thing, by using private transport, we have a variety of different aircraft that we can use depending on the location. So, for example, if someone wanted to go from Malaga to Soto Grande to Gulf, we can organise a helicopter for that. Tarifa, Seville, Ronda, all these places that you wouldn't want to maybe spend 3 hours driving to or 2 hours driving to, we can get you there extremely quickly, directly from your transport at Malaga Airport.
Ah, that's really good to know.
So it's really, really quite flexible that way, where you don't have to rely on ground transport to get it done.
Yeah, perfect. So Richard, what is your booking process like? So if someone wants to book a private charter, what is your process, and actually how far in advance do they need to get in touch with you?
Ideally, 48 hours would be the shortest, but we've had requests in less time. But then also too far in advance can be an issue as well, because a lot of operators might not be able to commit their jet to 6 months down the line. So the booking process with us, it's quite simple. I mean, if someone were to contact me with a request of where they'd like to fly, and for what reason, I'd get as much information from them as possible. How many passengers are going to be on the plane, any special requirements, excess baggage, because that will dictate what aircraft. It may only be 2 passengers, but with a ton of baggage, so they'd still need to be on a bigger plane. So really, it's just a case of getting as much information as possible. Then once I have all that, we put it into our systems to find the best aircraft possible. We also deal with operators directly that we have good relationships with. And then from that, I'll present probably about 3-4 aircraft of different sizes to them, and they can decide. So from a smaller, let's say, Citation size aircraft all the way up to a Gulfstream, or bigger depending on the route or how far they're flying. That dictates a lot as well. So I think, for us, we'd like to give the client options as well, and not just say, well, you can only have a Gulfstream because that's the most expensive. We'll give them a wide variety of aircraft to choose from.
All right, so it's really up to them.
It's up to them at the end of the day. If they want to go in a say a CJ2, which is a smaller private jet, then no problem, of course, and that's going to be a lot cheaper than flying on a Gulfstream or a Global Express. But then some people don't mind; they want the extra space and the room, so they'll go on the bigger aircraft anyway.
So how are the costs for booking a private jet typically structured, and is there any sort of finance arrangements available, and maybe what are the payment methods normally used?
So the costs are calculated on distance, size of aircraft. I think the size of the aircraft rather than passenger count is more important. So if it's going to be a larger jet, then and long distance, then it's all how many hours it's flying for. Then landing charges come in, insurance, taxes, and all these sorts of things. Financing, not really, because a good rule is no pay, no fly. I've been told that by my boss several times. So if the flight's not paid for, it won't take off.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, then we pay the operators, so we need to be paid as the middle people. So how can it be paid? Bank transfers, credit card, even Bitcoin these days. So there's plenty of flexibility on how to pay for it, but it does have to be paid in full before you set foot on the plane.
It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends though. I mean, it could be a celebrity that really the timing is just not on their side. They have to leave in the morning. Someone will organize the payment for them, for example.
Yep.
There are occasions that happens, but then these are the sorts of people that perhaps don't want bad publicity when
of course
the bill's not paid.
Yeah.
And things then backfire. So, we are flexible to a point, but they have to be the right sort of customer to,
of course,
for that.
Makes sense. So Richard, in your experience, right, what do you see as being the sort of future trends in the private jet chartering industry, from the technology or to the people who book them themselves?
Okay, future trends. I mean, the industry, like any industry, is developing at a rapid rate now, and I think the more and more people are beginning to understand that private jet travel is not just for people who were on MTV Cribs and those sorts of things. It's an excellent business tool.
Yep.
You can get on with your business whilst flying in complete security. Have the space around you. Planes are getting quieter, more efficient, quicker, greener. So, the industry is moving with the world. It has to. And people are now taking advantage of, let's say a future trend. Most people wouldn't, maybe some people wouldn't know that you can split the cost of the plane. If you want to have a private jet, which is a 10-seater, for example, you could split that 10 ways. It doesn't really matter, for us. As long as the plane's flown for and paid for, then we can do it. But future trends, I mean, really the whole thing is just we move with the future. We have to. In fact, we have to stay ahead of it. The pandemic saw a lot of people flying private more than commercial because of all the restrictions.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that trend's going to carry on continuing. And people are now becoming to see that it could be an affordable way of doing it.
Yeah.
For certain flights, of course, and for certain clientele.
I mean, just on that, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of different people, different nationalities, especially in the Costa del Sol, coming over.
Yep.
With a lot of money, high net worth people from Saudi, from the States. I mean, are you seeing any sort of growth in this area particularly?
We're seeing a lot of people from Northern Europe coming down here as well. If you look at Scandinavia, Benelux, there's a lot of flights happening between Belgium, Holland to Malaga constantly, and there's a lot of jets going back and forth. Of course, the Middle East, they're going to travel whenever and however they want, and they can afford to do that, of course. But there's a lot of potential. I think even with the US now, there's even on the commercial side, there's airlines now flying direct to Malaga again on a weekly basis. So, it's global.
Of course,
it really is global. But for us, and from what I've seen, there's a lot from Northern Europe coming here.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same as well, actually.
Yeah, so it was quite surprising. You'd think it would be coming from the south or further east, but no, the Northern European influence here is growing rapidly.
Yeah, brilliant. So Richard, what advice, would you and your expertise give to people who are thinking of booking a private jet charter for the first time?
My advice would be, and I know I'm saying this because I am an air charter broker, but would be to use a broker, because we know the industry inside out. You can try and do it yourself, of course. I mean, you can get in touch with the operators, but we do much more than just organising the flights. We make sure that the operators that we deal with are of a good standing. There are companies out there that do grey charters, and we stay away from companies like that. On our website, there's a blog post about grey charters and how people. And if you're not from within the aviation industry, you wouldn't know.
I don't even know what grey charters means.
It's just companies that cut corners, and there are operators out there and that do that, and it's unfortunate, but that's within any industry.
Of course,
real estate, finance, everyone. There's always a cowboy out there.
Yeah.
But because we know the industry inside out, we know which operators are good, which aircraft is the right aircraft to use. We won't sell you an aircraft, we won't sell you a charter that is not suitable just because it's a bigger aircraft.
Yeah.
You know, we'll do it specifically for your trip. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do just more than that. We can organise your ground transport, you know, what hotels you're going to stay at, deal with, you know, because for us, we get a lot of business from those people as well. Concierge companies will contact us saying we need a jet. Likewise, lifestyle concierge people at hotels,
Yeah.
limousine services, they all do it, and they all, because it's very reciprocal both ways.
Yeah.
So really my advice, pick up the phone or send us an email and we can advise you on which is the best aircraft to use, give you some options. We're not going to force one aircraft down your throat. We're there to be a consultant for you, not just sell you a charter. So we're there to advise from the whole process and make it as smooth a ride for you as possible. And then of course, when you've had enough chartering and you want a private jet for yourself and to buy one, we can organise that as well.
Oh, can you also?
Yeah, we have an aircraft sales team up in Belgium that will handle all of that.
Oh, fantastic.
And so we can sell your aircraft for you or buy or find you the right aircraft as well. So after a while, you know, if you're chartering an aircraft quite a lot, that can get expensive. So buy an aircraft, and then you can charter that out as well when you're not using it and make money from it. Because a lot of operators, you know, an aircraft that's sat on the ground is losing money.
Yeah.
So if it's flying, it's working. You know, it's working, and as an aircraft owner, you can make money from your investment as well.
You know, I never actually thought about that, so it makes sense. I mean, I'm in Realty, right? So I think about empty properties not making money, but the same.
It's the same thing. I mean, if you think about it, when it's parked at an airport, you've got your parking charges, you're taking up space, the aircraft's sitting around doing nothing, it's just, it's a waste. So, you know, a lot of operators will manage aircraft for aircraft owners.
Yeah.
And when the aircraft's not being used by the owner, they're chartering it out to other people.
Okay. So it's a buy to let.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not all will do that, you know, and some owners are very picky about, you know, when we get a quote from an operator to give to one of our clients, some will say, you know, subject to owner approval. They want to know who's on the plane.
Of course.
Some won't. Some will say no pets. You know, you can fly with pets, no problem. And some will, you know, it all depends. Some won't want it going to a specific destination. So we work well, and we can advise people on this, on how it all works, and just make sure it's as smooth for them as possible, because it's a big investment, regardless. You know, you're going from someone who potentially has flown commercially and maybe gone business class or first class that wants to give this a go. It is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome experience. I've been lucky enough to travel on them as well. I come from an aviation family, so I've been in around it for a while. So it is a completely different experience. And
awesome.
if you get the opportunity to try it.
Yeah, I will.
Well, once you sell a few Lamborghini properties, let me know.
Definitely, I will do. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.